This company is merging 60 PRs per developer per week, and everything is a mess. I got a robot. They are bringing in external dependencies into your projects. Is it worth it? Specific tips on AI and writing UI code. What are local AI models even? We're going to be talking about all these and more in this Syntax Potluck. That's right. This is our Syntax Potluck episode where you bring the questions, we bring the answers. And if you have questions for us, head on over to syntax.fm and ask a question for us, and we will get to it on a future show. So, let's get into it.
Yep.
All right, so the first question today from Deep Sea Goose. I just listened to episode 1010. Wow, that's crazy. We're past 1010 now. Which was a potluck episode with a lot of AI questions. The problem I'm struggling with is whenever I ask an AI agent to create a component or any large piece of code, it takes me a considerable amount of time to understand what it wrote before I can make any changes. What advice do you have to help me better understand the code it generates? Yeah, well, okay. So there's a number of things. Sometimes the AIs, when they write components, man, they write the craziest, like rat's nest of function calling a function, and then throw it all in like an effect-brained kind of way and really over-rely on things like side effects, and can make really understanding the code that AI writes a little confusing sometimes because it's quite simply not good, or it is good and it's just different than how you would have written it. One thing that I like personally is having it write terse comments in line with the code. Just like, one, it's documenting the code. Two, it is easier for me to reason about in English than to reason about in some other way of authoring code that perhaps I'm not used to at that particular time. So if I'm trying to deeply understand the code it's writing after it's written a large component, one, comments. Two, I like to lean on a lot of rules, particularly when I'm working with AI agents myself. I heavily dictate the style at which they're allowed to write components in. In the Svelte world, I'm saying do not use effect. Don't even think about it. Side effects are almost never the right decision here.
Yeah.
But because so many things happen in effects in React, it's always wanting to lean towards that. So, I have a number of strict rules that I give it when I'm prompting. So therefore, when I go to read the code, it reads like the code I want to read.
Yeah, I think with UI code specifically, because that often dictates how it looks, I find myself drilling in a little closer with the UI. Whereas like if I'm writing some like back-end functionality, I have no problem for it to generate several hundred lines or maybe even 1,000 lines of like functionality. You got your database and everything.
Is object function.
Yeah,
even function.
It's pretty good at like actual subjective functionality. But when it comes to actually building out the UI, I drill in a little closer and spend a lot more time on it and do sort of smaller changes, because I think that's why a lot of these apps feel like crap. It's because the UIs on them are just absolutely awful. They technically work well, but how you use them, how you interact with them, and what they look like is often leaves a lot to be desired. So my recommendation here is just drill in and use it at a much smaller. Hell, even go back to using tab completion if you must for that type of thing. Other things you can lean on, like Scott says, is lots of rules in there, example code, prompts over if something should be duplicated or not. I find that's a really interesting one where you have two things that have somewhat overlapping functionality. And in some cases, you want to simply just duplicate them. And they're different enough that I just want to be able to have the code in this component and not have to like factor it out into some reusable thing. In other cases, you want to like say, okay, here is a validation step, or here's what we do when you upload an image, right? That shares enough code that you want to bring that out and put it into a util library. I find the AI is not great at that. So in that case, you should be making smaller changes so that you are more dialed into what is actually happening.
Yeah. I mean, on the UI tip or on the utility tip, one thing that I have in all of my agents files is really just that, like, to create shared utilities in one location. And like, here's a directory of shared utilities. Always check to make sure a utility doesn't already exist. Like, here's the place you're looking for utilities. Do not create one locally. Create it globally, import it, and you use those global utilities, because that way it's easier to check. If it's creating like an inline utility function or whatever that it just uses once, it could duplicate that code 100 times. Yeah.
I think as you do more of this stuff, you'll get to a level of comfort knowing I'm happy with this type of thing. I'm happy to like trust that the code generated is up to my satisfaction. I don't think you have to read every single line and absolutely know what everything is doing, but you should be prompting it in such a way that you do understand where it is. For mission critical stuff, there's certainly other projects where I haven't even looked at a line of code.
Yeah,
totally. Exactly.
Yeah. And I think it is a lot of it is setting up those standards of what you want to see, those deterministic tools, whether that's the linting stuff or whatever. And like the ways that you can have your code work that just, you don't need to have an eye on it if you have a good set of rules.
This next question is exactly what you don't want to happen, because
I love this. Yes.
Let's do this. There's a question from LGTM bro. On my team, a common workflow is an engineer asks an agent to implement a feature or fix a bug, open a PR, address automated review comments if necessary, waits for CI to pass, and merges. In many cases, there is little to no meaningful human review of the actual code. This is certainly a problem right now, is that the bottleneck is not in generating the code. The bottleneck is trying to review it and make sure that what is implemented is actually, not even that it has to be good code, but it actually does what you're doing and not breaking everything and all that stuff, right? So it goes on to say, some individual contributors are merging 60 PR releases per cycle, which is about a week. So you're merging 60 PRs a week. Holy hell. Including changes spanning 20 to 70 files and thousands of lines of code. The volume alone makes it difficult to believe that anybody is thoroughly understanding and validating these changes. The results appear to be a steadily increasing amount of technical debt, recurring bug, architecture inconsistencies, fragile implementations, and code bases that are becoming progressively harder to extend and maintain. The product is awful. This is kind of interesting because we have these new superpowers, and you're seeing teams do one of two things. One, feature canon. Any feature you want, boom. Let me just copy what you want, paste it into the box, and I will sit there and watch it do it. And then the other people that is like, I'm looking at some of these apps, and I'm like, why am I using this app for so many years, and there's literally been no features or things that have been added to it yet? Like, you have these new feature canons. Like, what's going on? And what a lot of those companies are doing is they are saying, wow, we have this superpower. Let's spend the next year or whatever, or 6 months cleaning up all of the stuff that we have been saying that we want to fix. We've been saying for so many years that I want to be able to get this into spot. And I have this with a lot of my apps where I'm like, I'd love to implement this feature, but I would love to move to this database first. I'd love to clean up my utilities first. I'd love to do all of these things. So a lot of people are saying, we got all this technical debt, which we can finally solve. So they're using AI to refactor all of that type of stuff. So I think like we could talk all day about like, oh yeah, you should implement like features and tools and linting and all of this stuff. But I think that this problem goes beyond the proper prompts and skills and tools that you have. And it's like, well, turns out all of the stuff that we talked about for 10 years about good software engineering still applies, right? And you're just doing it on, like, you're just speed running it on like fast mode now, where it might have taken you 6 years previously to get to a point where your code base is a mess and things are duplicated. The problems you're describing here are not new at all. And the solutions to these problems are not new either at all. We know how to make a good software, and the fact that you guys are just doing it on a speed run is just making it much faster.
Man, that's crazy. 60 plus PRs in a release cycle. That's 1 week.
And some individuals, at that point, like the code base would be unrecognizable in several months, which is partially not like some parts of your code base you just don't understand. And it's easy. The AI can explain it to you, but those like high level architecture, if you're just adding a whole bunch of crap and duplicating it, it's going to be very tricky to sort of unwind a lot of those, especially if you don't have like tests and whatnot.
I think one thing that the prompt bros don't realize about this stuff is because, most of them have never maintained old systems or long running systems or these types of things. That tech debt is really real. And tech debt is such a major problem with AI now because it's so easy to add code. And like AI hates to remove code, even when you beg it to remove code. So like, yeah, I just feel like the amount of code that we be adding sometimes is going to come back to haunt teams. And sure, Fable is going to come out again, and the clouds will part, and you'll say, "Hey, make it better," and they'll make it better. And maybe that's the case, but yeah, in the meantime, I think we're going to be seeing a lot of software and apps like barely held together, because that's wild to me. Next question here from Sarah Chen. In episode 1009, you mentioned that nobody knows what a local model is. Can you do an explainer on what local models are? Well, local models are just models that you're running on your local machine. I think some people really disconnect that and think, ooh, I'm running the software locally, therefore it's local. But when in reality, they're going off and doing API calls. That was the whole thing.
Yeah, all these people are like, just use a local thing.
It runs a local.
They use OpenCode and DeepSeek for local. Like, that's not local. It's going to China.
Yeah, so it's literally running on your machine. And I will point you to the CJ did a really incredible video called Your Guide to Local AI. And so instead of just recreating that here, because I could just recreate CJ's awesome video on the fly here, right? I'm just going to point you to that because it's really super good, and he even uses a piece of bread to show you how big his computer is, so that's fun.
Yeah, the local model stuff is really interesting. We'll keep coming back to it because there's like this like idealistic thing of I would love to run local models. It's private and whatever, and it's on my machine and whatever. And then there's the actual like you don't realize like I'm saying people don't know what local models are. And now I'm going to say like people don't realize how much compute is actually being thrown at this stuff until you try to run something on your own machine that is of the quality that you're expecting from like an Opus.
I'll have a lot more opinions on this once I get a local AI rig and get deep into it, because that's coming for me. It's just I'm waiting for some next round of hardware to be released. It's just, the local AI stuff makes a lot of sense when you're doing purpose-built stuff. When you're doing toxicity detection, when you're trying to detect parts of your face. There are thousands of small models on Hugging Face that you can run in the browser. Look up Transformers.js. We had Zenova on the podcast where there's a lot of really cool stuff that you can run in real time, and like that is good, very good in the browser, but they are all dedicated to specific things, doing speech detection, text to speech, tagging things, categorizing things, vectorizing, all of that stuff. So the local AI space is not a monolith that does absolutely everything. It's a specific targeted things that you want to do in your application. Yeah, and it's not you're going to get Fable at home. It's just not.
No. Although there's a guy on Instagram right now, and he's saying that he's coding Fable on a laptop, and it's literally on a TV tray. And like the psychosis that some of these people have. And he's posting screenshots of Claude telling him that he is a 0.1% advanced user. And like he literally thinks He's like, I've only been doing this for 30 days, but we're on to something. We just need a little bit more compute.
God.
We're building Fable at home. And like he's telling Claude, build me Fable. And it's pretending to build it. It's got all these graphs and everything.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. The amount of psychosis that goes. And I feel bad because it's like he's never done anything in computers before. So
it's mental illness is really what it is. And that's like,
it's telling him, you're doing a good job. We're building this.
You're
like
very handsome. You're doing a great job. Everybody likes you. Yeah.
It's a bummer.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. I think we're on the precipice of seeing an endless amount of more of this world. So get ready, folks. Did you ever look into, what was it, that GPT 4.0 thing?
Is that where the people were mad that their lovers went away?
Yeah, it was something like that. It was like they discontinued the model, and people like were just losing it.
Yeah, because they have been talking back and forth with this as like a friend
model.
And a lover.
Yeah.
And they found that they can't replicate that with a different model because it has just different temperatures and tones and whatnot. That is sad and crazy. Man, that's all I have to say.
Yeah.
Aaron.
That's all I got to say. Yes, man.
I keep seeing people say Jujutsu is a new superior alternative. Jujutsu, not Jujutsu, whatever it's called. I'm certainly open to the idea that Git could be improved, but every time somebody tries to explain their use case, it sounds to me that we are doing something weird with Git that is just not a problem if you use it normally. I was tired of using so much super glue to keep the spaghetti on my spoon, but this new spoon improves super glue retention by 50%. What am I missing? Have you guys ever used it? I am in the same spot. I've had people come to me and try to tell me about Jujutsu, and I'm just like, I don't have those problems. But Scott, have you looked into this?
I've looked into it a bit. You know me, I'm always looking into this type of stuff. I have not used it because it felt like a thing I had to spend a lot of time on that I don't necessarily have right now. But the key bullet points for people who are interested in this thing is that, one, it is fully Git compatible. So it can use Git as a normal .git directory, and even to the point where you can use Git in a project. I can use JJ in that same project, and there's not going to be any issues, right? So it's a personal choice if you want to use this strategy or not. It's not like a full team buy-in unless you like want to do it that way. So that part of it is nice, right? You don't have to like really go nuts on it to get to use it. There's an operation log of all revision logs, including like your snapshots, your merging, all commits and everything exist in one giant operation log. So at any given point, you can just like run an undo command, which, God, man, having an undo command in Git, how many Stack Overflow posts would that have saved, right?
I still do it. I'm like, shoot, how do I, I've been using Git for probably 20 years or 15 years, something like that. And I still am like, oh no, I added something that I shouldn't have. And it was not in my Git ignore. Now I have to like ask AI to do that.
And there's a like automatic rebasing, which there's no staging. So everything is just automatically staged. So you never need to stash anything. There's no branches. So there's a concept called bookmarks that are very similar to branches, but they're like, there's no current bookmark. You can just go back to a bookmark. And people say that this makes it really easy to go and make revisions or fix things, or merging or conflicts are easier to resolve and things like that. I'm going to say this as somebody who has not used it. So if you have used it, leave a comment below and let us know why you think it's better. The one thing that I've noticed when people are talking about JJ is that you hear a lot about from people who are currently using it, have bought in, and absolutely love it. But when I started to dive in a little bit more, I found people being like, honestly, even though it is easier to go make revisions or this or that, not having like true branches and that sort of style of working is too much of a brain shift for me, and I just want, like, I don't care if I have to go into a rebase as long as I can make my branch, make my changes or whatever. So
I think the next Git thing is going to be from like Cursor last week announced, what was it called? Cursor Origin, which is their GitHub alternative, you know? And like, I think whoever like solves this, like what is the next Git/GitHub is going to be building something for agents that can simply just handle the sheer amount of like committing every single keystroke or every single thought, you know, so you can roll it back and you can try 6 different things, you know. I think whoever figures that out is going to win this thing. Making something that's like a slightly different CLI for humans, I don't think is gonna catch on anymore.
Well, I did see some arguments saying that JJ was better for agents because of that not needing to branch, right? It can just create bookmarks and versions of files and stuff really easily. That's it. In practice, I haven't gotten to use it that way. That said, Zed of the Zed editor did announce, they didn't release because it's in private beta, something called Delta DB, a version control that's built on a single coherent abstraction that transforms your conversations with agents and the work trees they edit into shared artifacts. So Delta breaks your work into a stream of fine-grained deltas, where Git captures a snapshot of each commit. Delta captures every operation in between and gives each one a stable identity. So it seems like Zed is also trying to solve this very problem. So this seems like a frontier that a lot of folks are... what do people do on a frontier? I should know this because I live on a frontier. You
explore them.
They're exploring. Yes, they're digging for gold.
I think, that's kind of interesting as well, because like you spend all this time chatting back and forth and then you lose all of that conversation. There's often valuable stuff in the like, why did you do something? So maybe if compute and context and all of this stuff is not an issue, like why not just store absolutely every single thing that has happened if we need to ever go back and look at it or use that context in a new conversation. But compute and storage is certainly a problem right now, so we'll see.
Yes. All right, next question from Phonics. As AI enables developers to build features in minutes that previously took hours or days, how should contractors and freelancers price their work fairly by time spent, estimated effort, or value delivered? They should price it the exact same way they've always priced it, or should have always priced it. Value delivered. Pricing, this is something you could have gone back to episode number 1 of Syntax when we're talking about freelance stuff, and we're talking about like time spent or effort. Like, these aren't what makes for a good quote or anything like that. It can lead you to go off the rails a little bit in spending or whatever. At the end of the day, I think value derived is the only way to price this kind of work, and frankly for me has always been the only type of way to price this work.
I have charged hourly in my career, but that's almost always where they're like, we will bring you in. What we need is maybe unknown at this point, but we just want to pay for 20 hours a week of your time, and you're just going to work on whatever it is. And those are okay arrangements, right? Like that's similar to just having a job. But if somebody is hiring you to do a task, and how long you do that task should be irrelevant. It's all about the value delivered. And if you spend a whole bunch of your time learning something, building out a bunch of tools, creating, I don't know, an army of agents that is so special that nobody else can do it as well or as fast as you, that shouldn't be factored into how long it takes you, right? You should be billing based on how much value delivered to the client at the end of the day. Certainly, like these things are going to change. Like people aren't going to be paying you $600 to like refactor a one page on their website anymore. When like I think like what people are willing to pay for and how much you get paid for doing stuff is going to be, or is already changing, right? But that doesn't make it that you should be charging based on your thing. Maybe tokens. Like at what point does your bill include how many tokens you spent on something? Because now people are saying like, you're not talking about how much time you spent, but you're like, oh man, I spent $6,000 worth of tokens.
I'm spending money to develop
yes.
now. Yeah. Yeah.
Weird world. Emil Babin says, hey, folks, do you have any idea why webkit-box-reflect, such a useful and delightful property for easy CSS reflections, doesn't get standardized, nor Firefox implements it with a vendor prefix? And this goes on for decades at this point. Yeah, so webkit-box-reflect was something that was added in Safari to basically get the like glossy floor effect where you could like mirror an image below. And it never went through a standardization process. It was just added to Safari. Very likely a lot of weird stuff gets added to Safari because they need it internally, or they're like, they have some weird screen in iTunes that needs, that is actually built with HTML and CSS, and they need to be able to replicate that effect. Why was it never added to any of the browsers? I think that they're hesitant to add stuff that is trendy. And that whole like glossy floor reflection was a huge trend that Apple kicked off. And like, you don't see it anymore.
Like cover flow and the iPod. Totally.
It's not all that useful anymore. And I think like your time is better spent on higher level features that would be able to make that, like HTML and Canvas, right? Now you can be able to, or not now, but once HTML and Canvas is in all of the browsers, you'll be able to just wrap that component in a canvas, flip the component, like paint it, and then just flip it on its axis at the very bottom of the x-axis, and you can replicate that feature rather than saying like this cheesy thing that has no knobs. Like, who needs that? Nobody needs that. I don't know. Is it delightful? I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it was a very of a time, and even though now it like feels like very useful in regards to like the CSS battle stuff like that. Again, very trendy look. I haven't seen a site that I would consider modern use that.
No.
Although, like now, I feel like that's got to be a syntax challenge. Who can make the most modern-ass looking design using webkit-box-reflect? Like some very beautiful modern UI using webkit-box-reflect.
I tried to use it in one of our battles because I needed to duplicate an
use
element,
it, yes.
But it turned out that it vertically flipped it. And
correct. I did that intentionally.
Yeah, I didn't want that. For some reason, I just needed to duplicate it to another one, so it wasn't possible.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird stuff in CSS like that.
Yes, a lot of fun things. All right, next one here from Moto likes you. Moto. Hey guys, I work on a medium scale enterprise software product as a front end dev. We use Angular as our framework of choice, and it's proven itself a sound investment in the age of AI, as it's very opinionated, but that comes with a cost. The cost being that Angular developers tend to rely heavily on framework-provided libraries, not willing to try many external libraries which reduce the amount of code we produce, and walk the same paths many developers have already walked before us. This is new to me as a former React developer. Pulling in new libraries was not nearly as contentious.
React devs will bring a library for anything, yeah.
React devs, yes, that's the bubble, right? Do you guys have any suggestions for getting the rest of the wider development team on board with using more external libraries, or are they correct and we should use the framework tooling as gospel? Currently, we only use a couple like Lodash and Hammer.js, but I know there's loads of places we could benefit from it. So this is interesting to me. Somebody who never made the transition to Angular 2, that's when I bowed out of the Angular ecosystem like many other folks did, and then spent a lot of time in the React ecosystem, where you're right, that the emphasis was often on bringing in other libraries. But that isn't always the emphasis. In fact, on Level Up Tutorials, I built just about most components on that site because bringing in libraries has a cost, and it always has had a cost. So I think you might be looking at this too much with rose-colored glasses in terms of just bringing in and getting easy functionality. That said, I do think you're valid in saying that a lot of work could be saved. But in the age of AI, I think bringing in less libraries is probably a plus. You're opening yourself up to less things. And again, we talked about in the last episode, the last potluck episode, we talked about the browser standards have evolved, and you can lean on the browser standards to augment them with JavaScript. So if the AI is good at writing Angular without bringing in extra libraries, that to me seems like a pro. But that is my perspective, and that's the perspective of somebody who's often kind of largely chosen to do it themselves for, I would say a benefit, but other people might argue the opposite.
I think like Scott said, with AI, you don't necessarily need to bring in libraries. Your utils folder can simply just make implementations of everything. You certainly have to spend a bit more time making sure that it covers all of your use cases, but it does exactly that. It just covers exactly what you need it to do, and you're not adding a whole bunch of extra code for it. And I think a lot of devs like that, because I think that's why Angular has attracted so many non-JavaScript devs. Like you don't hear about Angular a lot inside of like the JavaScript community, because we love piecing together everything ourselves. But for people who are like coming from like Java or Rails or whatever, like just give me the way to do it in absolutely everything. And I think this question has the answer to that. Currently, we only use a couple like Lodash and Hammer.js. Hammer.js is a touch library, last released 7 years ago. And Lodash, still some use cases here and there, but in many cases, you don't necessarily need Lodash. And this is what can happen, is that you build the dependency into it, and all of a sudden you're stuck 7 years later maintaining Hammer.js code that hasn't been touched in forever. So I think I'm going to side with your team on this one.
Yeah, wow. I'm surprised we agreed on that. So, okay, cool. Well, Wes, do you want to do a sick pick before we get out of here?
I do. I got one for you. I'm going to sick pick the headphones I'm wearing here. So these are 10-year-old Bose QC35s. I've had these headphones forever, 10 years, right? And I have changed out, and people are always like, oh yeah, I have those, but like I don't use them very much anymore, because A, they're micro USB, which it sucks carrying around a micro USB cable or having one on your desk when like it's the only thing. And B, the like headphone cups are shredded. Well, both of those I've fixed, right? Like I have changed these. You can change them to ones that aren't stupid and obnoxious, but I've changed mine to cow print. You could just find brand new ones, and they feels like a brand new pair of headphones when you put new ones on. The other thing is you can get a charging board from the Bose QC45s online, and you can simply it's plug and play. There's no soldering or anything. You just take it out, you unclip it, you clip in the new one, and boom. You do have to like wallow out the connector hole a little bit, but then if you find like a pair of old QC35s online, or if you have a pair, if you upgrade the pads, make them USB-C, they're still my favorite. I have other headphones that are noise canceling, and none of them are as good as the QC35s. Still a big fan of them.
Nice. Yeah, that you have been riding with those crazy earphones. Yes, I'm going to sick pick my new robot, the Ricci Mini. Hopefully, I'm going to try not to drop him while he does a dance here. I'm going to have him do a dance because I'm holding him by the base, which I'm not sure how intense that will be.
Explain what this is. This is
He's going nuts right now. He's doing a little dance. So this is a robot. It's by Hugging Face and Pollen. Sorry, he's still making noise. I'll set him down. Are you done? Okay. So this is a robot from Hugging Face and Pollen, and you have to build it yourself. So every little component of it you have to build. So it took about like 2 hours to build.
Like
I did it with the kids.
They give you all the pieces you snap together?
Yes, it was a very long instruction booklet here. Yeah, 50-page instruction booklet.
Smokes.
50 steps, I should say, of yeah, there's several PCBs in here, you know, power, battery, all that stuff, motors, and there's cameras and microphones. And because I did it with the kids, I was having them do a lot of the screwing and stuff. So it took a long time because of that. But it was a ton of fun. You can see he's got a lot of stuff going on the inside. He's very expressive. And the cool thing about this is basically you could think of it as like a very expressive Google Home that can move itself, has a camera, and you connect it to any AI provider, and it has like a fully open app ecosystem with a ton of great examples. So you can download a ton of stuff for this. Or right now, I wrote an app that connects mine to my Hermes. So when I'm chatting with this, it's actually using Hermes to get the response, and it has a microphone and a speaker, so it will do, text to speech, speech to text. I'm still getting into it. Like I have a ton of fun app ideas.
Yeah.
It just arrived last night, and we just finished building at like 8 p.m. So I haven't had any chance to really play with it beyond just getting it up and running. But what a cool ass little thing here. It's pretty sick.
So it has Wi-Fi, has motors, has cameras, has speakers.
Yes.
And it's cute. So you could
cute.
build so many things with it. Man, my
I'm
mind
build an
is
app
just
that,
running.
like,
the fact that you made it like a Google Home that you can program is like such a good way to put it.
Yes, I think that's what it feels like to me. But like what I'm going to use it for is like I'm going to like hold up our kids' spelling list, and then I'm going to make an app that they can practice spelling with it and use like time repetition. Because one thing that our kids get really frustrated at when they're like bad at a word, they get really worked up and frustrated about it. And I'm wondering if like having this cute ass robot be like, oh, that's like try to remember, like will help them like, be engaged a little bit more than just like, oh, let's try again, you know. So I'm going to build a spelling app for them. I'm going to build, like I said, I'm connecting it to Hermes, so that will be fun. And then I'm going to try to build an app that helps us learn Warhammer 40K. So that way it could like look at the battlefield and tell us like what to do next and stuff.
That is cool.
Very stoked.
You know what? Like
Yes.
if anyone listening, like another cool thing you could do is you could throw, what's the model? I made like a barbell detection a couple of years ago. Every single time you like did a rep, it counted. That was using, why am I forgetting the name of it? It's like a
TensorFlow.
No, not TensorFlow.
No. MediaPipe.
That's it. It was using MediaPipe.
Okay.
And there's 3 or 4 models. So there's like a hand tracking MediaPipe, there's like a body tracking one, and it will like know where your elbows are. Perfect example. That thing can run on low power hardware, MediaPipe. You could throw that on the robot and have the robot watch you, and you could figure out like count the jumping jacks, like that would be one little example you could do with this. That would be cool.
Yeah. So there's there's 2 versions of this robot that you can buy. You have to assemble them all. So if you're not technical and can't, you're not comfortable with assembling, like this was not an easy build. There's no soldering, but it wasn't an easy build. Don't get it because it's not plug and play. And it's definitely like more technical, but like, yeah, you could, in one version of this, Wes, there's a built-in Raspberry Pi. This version is not that because those are not out yet.
Okay.
This is the one, it does all compute on my laptop. So it can connect over Wi-Fi, and then the compute happens on my machine. So,
okay.
Yes, it communicates with the laptop to handle some things, and so apps you're running. But in the Raspberry Pi version of this, it would happen just all on robot itself.
Okay, I see. That's what I did with my Roomba as well, right? Like I didn't actually. No, I put the code on ESP32, but when I was first doing it, I was communicating wirelessly from my computer, and so I could do the more intensive stuff. That is sick. I want one of these. I'm
going to make a big detailed video on it, on the build, assembling it, all that stuff, talking quite a bit about more about this in the future. And I think you'll see a lot from me on this thing because I'm very inspired with it. I'll tell you that. So
sick. All right. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll catch you later. Peace.
Peace.
That's awesome.